Transmission, October 23rd, 2024. It is 11:30 hours. Is anybody out there? This is the Blue Iron Lion broadcasting from somewhere. This transmission is going to be for the men out there. I'm going to title it Men Must Thrive. And I'm going to particularly make it for the younger men, although any man can listen. You know, I've learned a lot of this stuff late due to being naive. And I'm going to start by saying what we all know. It is a harsh reality out here, which was done so by design, and it was done so before our time. We are in a hierarchical, pyramid-shaped realm. The haves at the pointy top down to the expanding have-nots at the bottom. We've heard things like this before with the Rockefellers and the Illuminati and the shadow government and the Rothschilds and all that. Whatever there is to call it, you know, the banking conglomerate, whatever. Let's just call it their system. And their system cannot work any other way but for how they want it to be. Frustrating. But once one understands the esoterics behind it, dating back to ancient times, and I'm heavily into learning the esoterics, there begins to come an understanding to all this. So in the meantime, while the rest of us are doing what we can to stay as far away from the bottom as possible, it sure feels nice to have a companion to love and hold on to in these times, doesn't it? Now, I usually like to try to keep my videos around 10 minutes long or so I got to see how I'm going to fit this in. I have a word on men-women dynamics and what is expected here. And yes, I know it's hard out there for both men and women, but I'm a man, so I'm speaking to the men. So men, if we look at this whole reality as a game, we would have it on the harder mode. Think of the game Resident Evil when it first came out. You could play as Chris Redfield or Jill Valentine. If you chose Jill, it was noticeably easier. She even started with a lockpick. As to this reality, think of a woman with a hard life. Now think of that same life where people could care even less and there are less options. That's the man version. But the better news as men is that by having women, we at least have each other. Most everyone wants this companionship. Men want women, women want men. It's an idealistic approach to where nobody wants to go it alone. The comforts of There's few things greater than the comfort of having someone you love and who understands you to go through this thing, this life here. The problem is that we all, both men and women, have been sold a movie picture version of what love is. And I have to say that when it comes to us men, I think we get the brunt of that illusion. It affects us more. Let me tell you why. See, when a man and woman meets, there is that honeymoon period. Everything is great. Everything is sweet, you know, lovey-dovey good. And if you're both lucky, I mean, you build that bond, right? That bond, it goes beyond the lovey-dovey phase. It's that, okay, we care about each other no matter what. If he loses a way to make his means or she loses her looks, right? That bond is what keeps you there. I mean, without that bond, the minute you lose your money, masculine, whatever, that's the minute she walks out the door, and vice versa if she gains 100 pounds. That type of bond comes from that rare, we've been together since high school bond, right? But here's the problem. We as men, okay, if our woman loses her income, we feel good holding it down. To be able to be a man and say that we did. If she loses her looks, we tend not to chastise her for it. If the bond is real, we don't want to hurt her. We will just shoulder it. We consider her feelings. Because our testosterone is 10 times higher, we may always get aroused by beautiful women, but we typically don't leave her as long as she keeps the peace. Now, a woman, when you have that bond, she will love you hard. I mean, on some Bonnie and Clyde, okay? That's the good part. She will go to the ends of the earth for you, and you can feel that. And you know, you're laying on a couch and you're watching Martin together, that television show, and everything is great, right? The problem comes from if something happens whether it's a choice you make or something that's happened to you as a man and you no longer have the means you once had, or your objectives are taking longer to meet, or any circumstance where she now feels she is holding you down, irrespective of how long you may have, in a vice versa way, let's just say the timer is ticking. If there's that bond, of course, she's going to hang around. She may even hold it down for some time even. However, during that hold down period, you're going to notice a change of attitude. You're going to notice a change in her behavior towards you and how she responds to you, to the point where you're like, what's your problem, right? Why are we going through this? And then comes the arguments, and then comes the nitpicking. And then as the situation continues, it continues to go downhill from there, right? The tolerance only slow dripping to the level of your bond. But make no mistake, it is fading. Resentment incoming. And according to her biological imperative, she is not wrong. The problem comes as the misunderstanding of our roles. It's safe to say that most men do not want a woman with a beard, correct? That's the simplest way I can put it. It's their nature. Women, they can endure a lot, but they're not typically designed to take care or hold down a man, okay? A lesser woman, or rather a woman that feels less for you, would leave in a heartbeat. It took me some time to figure this out. Now, they are capable of that type of love we want, but that is reserved for their children. The anger comes in because with most men, we're thinking, hey, listen, I thought we had a bond that we could get through anything. Because I love you, I could hold you down into old age. Why is you holding me down non-negotiable? Or comes with you inevitably resenting me and possibly running into another man's arms. And although most men would not want to be held down long anyway and would get back up to wherever they were, it's the principle behind it. And the woman's angry because, if I had to guess, in her mind, she's thinking, well, I thought it was understood that you're going to take care of me, take care of us, right? Except that's in her subconscious and she can't articulate it beyond emotion. Now, if you as a man that got in it for love with the, hey, this is my homie and I'm going to hold her down regardless of her situation type attitude, as most men that are in love do, because it's in our nature to protect, provide, then you might feel a bit angry and or disillusioned. But we're not going to get angry at women, right? If it wasn't this way, then, we couldn't evolve. So I've heard. And so then a man might ask himself, well, if I thought was a bond was no more than just a dependence on my role, then what is real? Is love real? And the answer is yes, sort of, in a spiritual sense. I mean, you have a woman who actually at one time felt that bond with you. In her mind, she loved you. In fact, she'd likely still care for you and may even hold you down just, from far away. And see, that's the part that hurts most men's feelings. Of course, I'm sure women have stuff that hurt their feelings, but again, I'm talking from the perspective of men because deep down inside, he learns, whether he's providing or not, that bond is only reciprocated upon certain conditions. That her emotional endurance would be far less for him in a crisis, and that worse than the likelihood of ditching him for another man, his feelings would not even be considered. Just him talking becomes uniform annoyance. We're talking a bond here. We're not talking the everyday man meet woman and try to figure out how to cope. That's just a regular fleeting relationship. We're talking that they were both joined at the hip. Bottom line, if a man cannot provide or falls short, I do not care what bond you thought you had. It's over. Or it's the countdown to being over. So then, instead of just titling this transmission, Men Must Thrive, because there's a lot of men out there who's like, I'd rather be alone then, which is understandable, I should retitle it. It really should be Men Must Thrive if they mean to have a meaningful relationship with a woman. It all feels so transactional, doesn't it? I still have problems decoding it myself sometimes. Okay, so let me reconfigure this. Women do love men. They love men hard. It's that heavenly love, so long that the man has the subconscious understanding that her loving him deeply comes with her notion that he lives up to an expectation. It's an exchange. See? In fact, if you should fall short of expectation as a man, you'd actually have a better relationship from a distance. She'd care for you more, because if you try to stay close, she will resent you as a man. So man, you must thrive. I wouldn't even suggest a man get into a serious relationship unless he is already thriving. At least he then has the option of saying, well, I'm aware of this nature, but I still like how it feels to be with her in the moment. I like that my woman will go all out, even at her own expense when she feels like this. The fact that I am already thriving means I get to keep that feeling because I never have to worry that I can't meet my end of the bargain. Or the option of saying, hey, you know what? I had to make it for myself because I can never, ever put my heart in full emotion with the understanding that this transactional dynamic, I'd rather just do me and have a rotation of women or, stay by myself. At least I have that option. That's it. That's why a man must thrive. Options. I guess I could have summed it up with that. For anybody out there that cares to listen. End transmission.